This is a video to help you understand simple ways of turning linear equations into graphs. We're going to discuss two major forms in slope-intercept form and standard form, as well as a couple of kind of crazy equations for vertical and horizontal lines, things that you need to remember because they kind of break the rules a little bit and have to be approached a little bit differently. First of all, slope-intercept form is a y equals mx plus b equation. And the big thing to remember is that, again, m stands for slope, and b is your y-intercept. So how to use slope-intercept form in order to graph is, number one, use the intercept as your place to begin. Any line is really made up of two things, somewhere to start and somewhere to go. So if you know the y-intercept, giving you somewhere to start, such as in this equation, are -4, then you have somewhere to begin your line. So I can travel down to -4 down here and put my first point on my line. Then use the slope as the second portion to tell you where to go. If my slope is 1/3, then all I need to do is go from the point I've already drawn on a rise of 1 and a run of 3, and I can do that again. And rather than having to find multiple points, I can now just draw a straight line, or as straight as possible, through the points I've drawn and continue it outwards. Again, rising 1 and run of 3 is up 1, right 3. I can also have gone down 1 using a -1 and left 3 being -3, so that also would be a direction I can travel. Infinitely left, infinitely right, traveling up and down with a positive slope of 1/3 to guide me. And again, make sure you can read your labels. Notice we kind of covered our label up. So I'm going to go back up here and label this -1 and label this 2 or 5, just so that we know exactly what we were counting by on our graph. Go ahead and try that same approach using a slope this time of -2 and a y-intercept of 4. Take a second to make a graph that fits it. Alright, if we're going to start at 4, we're just going to travel up to 4. And again, a slope of -2 is as good as saying -2 over 1, or you can say 2 over -1. So I can travel down 2 and right 1. I also could have traveled up 2, left 1, if it fit my graph. But if I just keep repeating that pattern, then we'll be able to draw as straight a line as possible. And don't forget to label your graph. Again, I'm counting by ones in each direction, so I'm just going to label those lines. Now, the second form of a graph that makes it fairly easy to graph is what's called standard form. So we've got a graph down here that follows this formula, ax plus by equals c. So 6x plus 4y equals 12 is going to be a helpful way to label that graph. Using your x-intercepts, or where your y value would be 0, if I plug in 0 into my equation in here, I basically get 6x plus 4 times 0 equals 12, or 6x equals 12, x equals 2. So I've got a point at 2, 0 for an x-intercept. I can also do the same thing with x. So if I travel here and call x 0, then 6 times 0 plus 4y equals 12. Well, 4y equals 12 tells me that y equals 3. And my y-intercept, or when x was 0, would be at 0, 3. Now that doesn't give us as many points as a nice slope would, but if I follow the pattern, notice I've gone down 3, right 2. I can just continue to do that, and I can make myself a nice pattern. Or if I go up 3 and left 2. Again, now I've got lots of points to try to draw as straight a line as possible through. Go ahead and pause the video and try using that same idea to graph the equation at the right. As I resume the video, you'll notice that when I plugged in 0 for y, that left me with 5x equaled -15, which means that x equals -3, or -3 comma 0 being my x-intercept, and if I plug in 0 for for x, for a y-intercept, if I plug in 0 for x, I get negative 3, y equals negative 15, or y equals 5, which is where I plotted 0, 5, and negative 3, 0. Then I followed the line as straight as I could and made a nice smooth line. Don't forget to label your axes. Now, general form or standard form can also be applied to horizontal and vertical lines. Big thing you want to remember about a vertical line is remember that it has all the same x values, but different y values. Or if I wanted to graph the line x equals 3, I could make a lot of points that have x values at 3, but y can be pretty much anything. It can be 0, it could be 5, it could be negative 2, and I can plot all of those lines, or all those points, 3, 0, 3, 5, 3, negative 2. You'll notice that for each one of them, x equaled 3, and it makes a nice vertical line. I can also, I kind of flip-flop this. There's my red line. Did this one in blue, but anyway. I can also make a horizontal line out of a y equals equation. Again, we're saying that all of the y values will be negative 2. But I can use x being anything, such as 0, or 5, or 3. So if I go to 0, negative 2, 5, negative 2, or 3, negative 2, you'll notice that I get all points on that same horizontal line. Standard forms for vertical and horizontal lines, remember you only have one of the two variables. You've only got x or you only have y. You're not going to have a mixture of the two. So they stand out pretty well. I hope that helps you graphing lines. Good luck, and ask your teacher if you have any questions. Have a great day.